We've all seen this image of Bigfoot, right? Have you ever wondered where it came from, who took it, and if it's fake? What about this one of the Loch Ness Monster? And what about the tale of La Llorona? Well, today we're diving into unexplained urban legend sightings. Well, explained the best I could. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. The day that this is being uploaded, August 16th, 2 days on August 18th, my album will come out. Stop Loving Me. It is my first ever rock album, and I'm moving on to rock. I left hyperpop. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to say that for people to start getting the idea. But there will be a full album movie here, and I invite all of you. I hope to see you guys there. It'll be a nice event. It premieres on August 18th at 6 p.m. PST. So turn on notifications for the channel. You can turn them off later. Anyway, let's get right into the video. Bigfoot. Starting us off is the famous Bigfoot sighting. And before we even get to where and who saw Bigfoot, have you ever wondered how big he is? Pause, I know that sounded weird. According to the Arizona State Museum, the Bigfoot's footprint is about 18 inches, 45.7 centimeters long, and 9.2 inches, 23.3 centimeters wide. For perspective, normal people considered to have a big footprint can have feet sized at about 13.5 inches, which is 34 centimeters in length, and 4.275 inches, which is 10.8 centimeters in width. The average person's footprint is of course smaller than that. This photo shows the difference when the two are put together side by side. So, who saw Bigfoot first? Well, among the very first mentions is one that dates back to a story of two men working for a logging company at a place called Bluff Creek Road in California. This was back in 1958, and these two men, Jerry Crew and the logging site foreman, Wilbur Shorty Wallace, were among the first ones to see the quote, big and man-like prints that were etched deeply into the earth. As they talked over it, other crew members joined in, and it quickly became a discussion on other sightings. One of the crew members mentioned that similar prints had been seen at a site in Mad River in upper northern California. 20 of the other workers confirmed that version. Then another mentioned that more prints had also been seen in Trinidad up the coast. While some people have dismissed the story as just an attempt by the loggers to pass on stories with a quote legendary flavor, there is some compelling evidence that keeps people curious even today. For instance, there's this cast of a foot track obtained from Bluff Creek, California, that left people wondering who or what creature would make such a print. A lot of early stories leaned onto the explanation that he was a primal, dangerous creature from the past who lurked in the modern wilderness. Even more bizarre is that in October 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, having heard Crew and Wallace's story, went deep into the woods at Bluff Creek in search of Bigfoot, and they came back with footage of the creature. The footage was taken about 80 feet away, and while grainy and shaky, it shows a creature strolling through a clearing. Even crazier is that the creature in the footage is unlike any other animal or human known to inhabit the region. And even though this footage could be seen as a man in a gorilla suit, it actually reminds me of when Patrick, it actually reminds me of that SpongeBob episode where Patrick unzipped himself and it's a gorilla. Or is it the other way around? It reminds me of that. Anyway, with the amount of people assuming that it's a man in a gorilla suit, there are some Bigfoot researchers that deny that. For example, Jeffrey Muldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, said, "It's also easy to say, obviously that's a man in a fursuit, until you see it up against a man in a fursuit." What he meant was that comparing what is in the footage to a man in a fursuit shows a clear difference. He compares the footage to a scene in the sauna in the 1970 sequel, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Obviously, the scene has a man in fake fur. In contrast, about the anatomy of the creature in the footage, which he shows to his students, he explains that as students examine it, quote, they start at the head and they can see the trapezius, they can see the deltoid, erector spine down the back, shoulder blades moving under the skin. The quads contract when they're supposed to contract, none of which ever show up in a cheap off-the-shelf costume. Another well-known Bigfoot researcher, Cliff Barackman, shared evidence that it wasn't so easy to dismiss the footprints. This is because they shared a very distinctive pressure ridge that could have been made by the same creature in different locations. This image here shows Barackman's analysis, and there's even more. This is a handprint by Ivan Marks, thought to be by Bigfoot. It was found in 1970 just north of Colville, Washington. While it's a copy of the original, Grover Krantz, a physical anthropologist, said his analysis showed that it contained details that he thought were too difficult to fake. And what's more? Well, more sightings of Bigfoot in the modern world. As of 2018, according to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, there's been at least one sighting in every state except Hawaii. BFRO records reports of new sightings, and the most recent one is by a family that claimed they saw, quote, an upright and dark bipedal figure, unquote. 3 times times on their property since 2015. The sightings were by their grandkids. On one occasion, the creature stood by watching them, then when they looked away, it moved a little and stopped when they looked back at it. While one of the pictures they provided of the figure looked like a bear, it was absurd since there are no bears in Illinois Will County. So, what do you think? Is Bigfoot really real, or was it just a guy in a costume and all the other sightings and all the other footprints are faked too? Loch Ness Monster. Next up on our creepier urban legend sightings is the Loch Ness Monster. This creature, although fondly referred to as Nessie, is nothing close to this lovely name, as seen here, which is among the first reported sightings of the monster in Scotland on April 19th, 1934. It's a scaringly large reptile that dwells in water, specifically the waters of Loch Ness, which is a large freshwater lake in the Scottish Highlands, extending for a length of about 23 miles and covering an area of 33.8 square miles. That photo I just showed you was taken by an English physician, Robert Kenneth Wilson, and is commonly referred to as the, quote, surgeon's photograph. It spurred a lot of fear and confusion as people imagined how large the creature was if what they saw in the photo was just the head and neck. A lot of illustrations have been made to quench this imagination, and this here is one of the modern artworks which offers an imagined version of the full view of the creature's form. It kind of reminds me of the, I forgot the name of it, but in Mario 64, that I think it was actually based on the Loch Ness Monster, but yeah, that sea creature in Mario 64. I just wanted to say that. After Wilson's story was published in the Daily Mail, people began speculating that the creature was actually a plesiosaur, a long-necked monstrous creature that existed in the European seas around 66 million years ago. If that were true, the creature would be around 15 feet long. Notably, before the, quote, surgeon's photograph, the legend of this monster had been a thing in the Loch Ness region. The ancient people of the region, named Pict due to their body paintings, for example, did stone carvings that showed a mysterious monster with flippers. The monsters are also mentioned by a Christian missionary to the region, Saint Columba, who noted that in 565 AD, the monster was prepared to attack a man when Columba intervened, ordering the beast to go back. Other sightings were claimed along the way, but most people believe the whole thing was simply an extension of the Spanish folklore, which is based around mythical water monsters. This was until 1933 when a road that was adjacent to the Loch Ness had been built and passerbyers had a perfect view of the lake. In April of that year, a couple claimed they saw a gigantic animal that looked like a, quote, dragon or prehistoric monster, and that it crossed their car's path, disappearing into the water. In December of that year, Daily Mail, the news publisher, commissioned a game hunter called Marmaduke Wetherell to find that creature. He came back with reports that along the shoreline he found prints of a very powerful soft-footed animal about 20 feet long. This news of course spurred more effort from people trying to locate Nessie the creature. Further along, the stories about the monster got more weird. For example, during World War II, an Italian newspaper, Popolo d'Italia, reported that the Loch Ness monster had been killed through a direct bomb hit by a German air raid. However, this claim was quickly dismissed after J. McFarlane Barrow, who was on a boat trip with his 3 children, said they saw Nessie. This was around 1941. After the claim, Daily Mail published an article saying that Nessie had survived the bombing by the Nazis. Several other sightings have been claimed since then, and they are a little too many to go over individually. However, some interesting ones include this one by Jolene Lynn, who said she saw a snake-like head emerging from the water, and this one from 2014, where an image came up on the Apple Maps app after being captured by a satellite, and it shows a shadow in the loch about 100 feet long with what looks like 2 giant flippers moving it through the waters. Beyond the photos, there's even a video. In 2018, Caroline Barnett, a business consultant, claimed she recorded the monster popping in and out of the water in this grainy webcam video. She said, quote, it was quite a size, the size of a boat, but it was hard to tell because it was the other side of the loch, and added, I didn't know if I believed in Nessie, but this is certainly some Christmas present and quite a surprise. That same year, in 2018, an expedition for eDNA sampling by a team of global scientists was set up in icy depths of Loch Ness, and among other goals, was meant to prove if the monster really did exist. The scientific basis of the experiment was that as long as the creature left behind skin, scales, feathers, fur, feces, and urine, they would be able to analyze it against existing databases of known genetic sequences and maybe identify it. The scientific expedition didn't find any monster DNA. Geneticist Neil Jamel of Otago University, who led the New Zealand team, said right from the get-go, I said I don't believe in the monster, and that's still my position, but wouldn't it be amazing if I was wrong? And he might be wrong because a video published by Mirror, the UK newspaper, claims to be the most recent footage of Nessie captured by Eoin, and I'm not going to pronounce that last name, a Loch resident who was dedicated to finding the monster. So what about this one? Do you guys think this one's real or fake? Because I get it, faking the Bigfoot one, I mean just a guy in a gorilla suit, but how do you even fake this one? I don't know, good editing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. La Llorona. Imagine yourself visiting southwest New Mexico, and on a lazy evening, you decide to take a stroll along the Santa Fe River. In typical horror film style, a creepy figure appears between the trees and the shoreline. A tall, thin woman, donning a tattered and soiled gown, floating and gliding above the waters, starts to trail you. You first see her from far off. She goes up to the hills and disappears. Then she suddenly reappears out of nowhere, but much closer to you, and the woman is wailing every time you see her. What's your reaction? Well, this is said to be an actual experience by Patricion, Lugan's family, that was sitting outside a long creek between Mora and Guadalupita, New Mexico. The woman they saw was La Llorona, or at least her spirit, who roams the Santa Fe rivers and creeks, wailing into the night and searching for children to drag. Now, there are many versions of the origin story of La Llorona, but the common theme in all of them is that she's a spirit of an ill-fated mother who drowned her children and thus spent an eternity searching for them in the rivers and lakes. One of the interesting legends behind her existence was that she was once a caring woman full of love and life. She had been married to a wealthy man who showered her with love, attention, and gifts. Together they had 2 sons, after which her husband changed. He went back to a life of alcohol and womanizing, to the point that he left her alone with the children for months on end. He no longer cared for her and even threatened to leave and marry a woman of his own class. He stayed away most of the time, only coming back to see the sons. La Llorona thus increasingly grew resentful of her sons. She, however, did nothing to harm them until this one time when her husband gave her an explicit display of disrespect. Apparently, while Maria was out taking an evening walk with her sons on a shady path by the river, her husband pulled up in a carriage with an elegant lady beside him. He spoke only to his children before proceeding down the path without looking back. He completely ignored La Llorona, which was named Maria, and she felt humiliated and went into a terrible rage. She took out the rage on her children, seizing them and throwing them into the river, where they started disappearing downstream. Immediately, she realized what she had done and tried running after them, but it was too late. They were gone. This trauma of loss turned her inconsolable. She went into grief, mourning her children day and night. During this period, she did not eat or drink, but just walked along the river in a white gown, searching for her boys. She did this for a long time. Her gown became torn and soiled, and because she wasn't eating or drinking, she became thin to the point of looking like a walking skeleton. Eventually, she died on the river banks. Can you guess what happened next? Yep, she turned into a ghost. Her relentless spirit started appearing along the banks of Santa Fe River, walking, weeping, wailing, and cursing the night. On dark nights, people would see her floating on the water or drifting along the trees and the shoreline. Of course, this made people to go out during the nighttime, because they believed if they went out during a night walk, La Llorona was gonna kill them. Yeah, I mean, I'd be scared too, not gonna lie. Tales about her vary in detail, but in all of them, she acts without hesitation or mercy. In some tales, she kills everyone, men, women, and children, while in others, she only kills children, dragging them into the watery grave while screaming. Besides the family that I mentioned at the start, there have been other sightings of the woman. For example, she has been seen multiple times in the PERA, Public Employees Retirement Association building, which stands on land that was once a graveyard near the Santa Fe River. Apparently, many people who have worked there tell of hearing cries in the halls and feeling unseen hands pushing them into the stairway. In 2016, this image popped up online, to the horror of residents of Temecula, California. Some said that it was definitely La Llorona due to the long black hair and a white gown, and the fact that she appeared near the city's duck pond, a large body of water. In a more recent case, this image, captured by Martin Godinez as he drove at 2 a.m. from his friend's house, has been purported to be that of La Llorona. I'm not gonna lie, that looks like when people make a cheap costume of a ghost and then they cut eye holes through it. That's exactly what that looks like. He said he didn't see her, but only noticed her image after realizing his camera had captured something after he got home. A local paranormal investigator, Edgar Vega, said, quote, "There's definitely something going on here, but I do believe that this is none other than La Llorona." This was because the sighting was at Father McNabo near the Rio Grande River. His argument was that the woman's energies would get attracted to water. He also explained that since the woman in the image is wearing a white gown, it definitely might have been La Llorona. The only bit that didn't match her original form is that she was quiet. Maybe it could be argued that she's evolving and moving around a bit. Historically, her wanderings have been growing wider, reaching as far north as Montana on the banks of Yellowstone River. I really tried my best to include La Llorona in this video. Shout out all my Latinos watching this, but even though some of the evidence is, I mean, it's like the only human I'm like really taught that's like an urban legend. I shouldn't say that. I probably, you know what? Maybe it's not the only human, but still, I should wanted to include La Llorona. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's head on to the next one. The Jersey Devil. Currently, it seems like each state in the US has at least one urban legend going. Some feel like light-hearted folklore, but others are so disturbing that they blur the line between reality and mythology. This next story, the legend of the Jersey Devil, falls right at the center of the others category. Right off, just watch this short clip of the most recent sighting.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the f, man? this.
Now, I'm gonna be the first one to tell you that is fake. What was that? What was that PNG across the screen? I have no idea either, but it's just an interesting one to add to the list. The video is from October 2015 and was captured at Old Port Republic Road near Leeds Point by Emily Martin. And what's interesting is that just a few days earlier, this photo was taken in Galloway Township by David Black, a Little Egg Harbor resident. Yeah, look at that image, guys. Definitely not fake. According to David, he had been driving along Route 9 near a golf course when he saw what he thought was a llama. It was walking in and out of the tree line by the road, but then it suddenly spread its wings and flew away. Both Emily and David swear that they didn't doctor the footage at all. How do you claim that you didn't like mess with the footage, especially the first video? That was horrible. That was a horrible video. And also, why would you just record and gasp? Girl, ain't you gonna run? You see like a demon goat, you're not gonna run. Stop playing with me, bro. Like y'all just gonna keep lying about this? Anyway, let's continue with what they said. Now, assuming that the image and video are true, it then means that the strange creature from old folklore might still be around and roaming freely in Jersey woods. You know, there's a link between the creature and the story from back in the 1700s and the one seen in 2015. All accounts note that it's winged, horse-like, bipedal, and horned, sort of like this artist's illustration from 1982 and this one from 1909. You can probably see how someone can confuse it for a llama because of the shape, the tall neck, and the head. Now, among the first sightings of this creature is back in 1812 when a man named Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's older brother, said that he saw it when on a hunting expedition near his Bordentown estate. The creature's legend grew from there, and it had people frightened to the core. This Trenton Times newspaper print from 1909 sort of shows what mood Bordentown, Jersey was in at the time. The subheading says, "Hoofprints in the snow, whirring noises in the air, and other uncanny manifestations reached Bordentown and Mount Holly after making a sensation in lower counties where natives remain indoors after sundown." Clearly, the Leeds Devil had been in other places too, the lower counties. The paper might have meant counties like Salem, Atlantic, Cape May, and Cumberland, comparing it to a creature in Bridgeton in 1873 and one in Point Leeds in 1894. There is extensive description of its looks in the article. Apparently, besides looking like a horse with wings and standing on 2 feet, it had great form and could crawl through a hole less than a foot in diameter. It has a cat-like ability to walk on fences and approximately weighs less than 20 pounds. From that point, 1909 onwards, there were over 1,000 eyewitness stories of the creature. The legend then faded a bit until 1927 when a taxi driver said that while changing a tire, he was attacked by a winged creature that was pounding on the roof of the cab. Later sightings would be reported in the 1960s with wealthy businessmen offering rewards of up to $250,000 for its capture. And we know it's the same creature because of this poster here. Oh, and it gets even weirder. In the 1980s, it's believed that the Jersey Devil killed a pack of pigs and drained all their blood. Chief Ranger Alan McFarland of the Warden State Forest, while recollecting on what he called a brutal scene at a Jersey farm, said that the pigs had the backs of their heads eaten and their bodies scratched and torn. There were no tracks around the body, suggesting that the attacking creature must have the ability to fly. Now, just like the last tale of La Llorona, the Leeds Devil has an origin story. Legend has it that around 1735, a woman named Mother Leeds, a Pines resident, got pregnant for the 13th time. And just to note here, Leeds is among the oldest names in New Jersey and dates back to the earliest settlers in the state, which makes this legend sort of believable. Mother Leeds wasn't pleased by the pregnancy at all because she was poor and her drunk husband did little to provide for the family. Out of frustration of expecting a new child, she declared, "Let this one be a devil." She then gave birth to a baby boy, but soon enough, he metamorphosed right before her eyes. He turned from a beautiful newborn into a hideous creature and grew at an incredible rate. He grew horns, talon-like claws, leathery bat-like wings, and feathers all over his body. The eyes grew increasingly red in typical monster fashion. The boy then attacked his mother, killing her before ravaging the rest, and killing as many as it could. It has ever since lurked around the area, terrorizing locals with every opportunity. Again, that's just the Leeds Devil urban legend. Now, I know that the evidence was, not good, but I really like this origin story. I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool origin story. But yeah, I'm not even gonna ask if you guys think this is real. I think this is like just fake. Anyway, let's head on to the outro. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment saying, "Tuv, you are so cool and you are so hot." Yes, I know I am. But make sure to tune in to the premiere. It is in 2 days, y'all. Make sure to go over to my Spotify when it comes out. And in case some of y'all are wondering, I am not ashamed of the hyperpop days. If it seems like that, I am not ashamed of it at all, but I am very excited to be maturing with my music. And of course, I'm gonna show it off. So yes, Stop Loving Me is leagues better than ear candy. I can say that confidently. And that's really it for this video. Make sure to go subscribe to make sure to go check out my Patreon if you want. $5, you get everything early, all my videos early. So that's really it. I'll see you guys next time I upload.